That's 100% the case. I talk to people all the time who are like reasonable, intelligent people, and you tell them you travel to certain places, they're like, "Weren't you afraid?" Of what, man? Of the pit of snakes, of the quicksand, of the cannibal, indigenous tribes? Like, to be honest, like. Initially, yes. But I quickly realized that these were all seeds planted by movies from my childhood.
Grown-up, human, comic, people! Grown-up, human, comic, people!
Welcome to episode 52 of Volume 2 of Grown-Up Human Comic People. Thanks for listening. We're back. It's been a little while. We haven't recorded in a couple weeks. It's good to see everybody. Well, let's go around the table and introduce the players. To my left, Chris. Jer.
Nicely done.
Greg.
Greetings.
Daniel.
And salutations.
I'm Jared. We are the humans. Let's raise the glasses, gentlemen. Toast. There we go.
My parents have been asking me, they were like, "Can you send me one of the podcasts?" And I was like, "Yeah, you're not, like, you guys don't like this stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, but we're proud of you." Like, they kind of said it like, yeah, like they had to say that. Like, "We're proud of you." And I was like, "All right, I'll send you one." So I sent them the one where we all made the fart noise into the mic at the very beginning of it to like try and piss off Greg. So that's where they got to. They were like, "It's just fart noises, Chris. What are you doing?"
Is this how you want to put yourself out in the world?
You should have convinced her that that's a thing that people like a genre of podcasts is just people making fart noises.
That's our most popular one.
Yeah. Like, we didn't think we'd be good at it. Like usually we were just doing regular podcasts, but then we did the fart noise one and we blew up. So now we're just doing fart noises.
There once was a time, Chris, when people cared about whose ass it was and why it was farting.
I got that text message from my mom. She's like, "Is it just fart noises?" And I didn't know because I forgot which one I sent her. So I was like, "That's really insulting." She said, "No, Chris, it's just fart noises."
Oh, I thought that you forgot what you were talking about entirely. So it's just, like, is it just fart noises? Like is what just fart noises?
that would be even better. No, within the context of the text, I knew she was talking about. I sent her one of the live ones because I was like, "Just that's probably a bad one." Here,
Very deep.
The text back from you was like, "Where are you?" Oh shit! Oh, so anyway, I guess you could get to the intro here. You can find us at grownuphumans.com. That's the trusty old website, or at epicastnetwork.com/grownuphumans. Check out Epicast. They have a lot of cool podcasts and things on there. We have Chris has a podcast on there called In the Pit. There are a bunch of other cool stuff. Drinking Partners is on there. And if you're interested in making a podcast, you can contact them about that too. So
or us,
shout out, or us. Yeah,
we'll tell you to do it.
that's true. Yeah. Anyway, rate and review us. Rate and review us on the internets, on the social medias, on all your favorite podcast apps and stuff, so that we can have more visibility. We'd appreciate it. It takes like just a second, and it would really help our show. So I almost said please and thank you, but I don't say that because it makes you sound like an asshole.
Yeah.
Right? People, it's just not.
I think we've talked about somebody who does that. Yeah.
Yeah. I told him not to do that anymore. He stopped. To his credit.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's admirable.
No, shout out to him. Yeah. If he's listening. You can find us on iTunes, Google Music, Stitcher, Libsyn, Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud at Grown Up Human Comic People, and Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram at Grown Up Humans. Just fucking, if you want to find us, search Grown Up Human Comic People on the internet, and you will find us. Check out, if you're in the Pittsburgh area, check out radicaltrivia.com, the coolest trivia show in the whole fucking universe. It's a bar trivia show, and it's entertaining on a weeknight. So check out radicaltrivia.com. And then also check out Midnight Rose. We're going to be playing some shows, upcoming shows. Gentlemen, how tell them about it.
Yep, March 12th, Mr. Smalls. We are playing with Galactic Empire.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know who Galactic Empire is, it's like a Star Wars themed band.
Yeah.
They play all like instrumental Star Wars. I guess it's like heavy metal.
Yeah,
sort of.
they basically take
And
the
they wear
scores.
like full costume.
Yeah.
So
that's
what you
yeah.
see in Return of the Jedi is Boba Fett blasting stuff, but you don't know that he's a really good drummer.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think 15 in advance, 20 at the door, all ages. It's on a Monday night, and March 12th. And
Yeah. If you want to go get a ticket from us, they're cheaper that way, and it's just the cool thing to do.
that's right.
Yeah.
I would have liked to seen Jabba the Hutt on drums. That would be so sweet.
I feel
pretty good
he doesn't have enough. He doesn't have enough feet.
He's more of a throat singer, I
true.
feel.
Yeah.
Did you see the little arms? They just go to town.
He's a tambourine player.
Yeah,
He just hits off his side.
He's the percussionist. He have all kinds of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely not like the stand-up bass player.
No.
He wouldn't be able to reach down far enough. He couldn't get close enough to the fretboard.
Imagine the strap for that bass.
No, a stand-up bass.
Oh, I thought you meant like him standing up playing the bass. Yeah, right. An upright,
as opposed
an
to a sit-down bassist.
right.
You can't do both. You're one camp or the other.
Right. I mean, I agree. You might just be a sit-down player.
I mean, if you do both, how do we know as an audience what we're going to get?
Right.
You get into the venue, you see the band, they're standing up there. The bass player is sitting or standing. Really, that really tells you what you're about to see.
I feel like it does. You're either about to see the Eagles, like unplugged, or you're going to see something cooler than that, like Greg.
I would just say it sounds like you're going to see something that sucks. It's definitely going to suck.
Yeah, the Eagles unplugged. I thought that was like clear in that statement.
Can you imagine being Jabba the Hutt's roadie for his stand-up bass tour?
And you have to just mop behind him everywhere he goes. Like he's just fucking leaving trails.
And
of fucking schmegma.
apologize to management in advance. And ask if they move any carpeting. Unless
He
they
has
want it
a
to be
real
ruined.
hard time navigating over carpet.
Oh, I meant for their own sake, so the carpet's not ruined.
Well, and because
Oh, you
probably
said
probably
carpet?
gets stuck.
I thought you said carbonite. That's what I thought you said.
Remove all the carbonite from the building. Jabba really has to think about carbonite after that last time. You may have heard about it. What were we talking about? Midnight Rose. So it's MIDKNIGHT Rose, and you can find us on Facebook and all the internet.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And check out metamesh.org. They might bring free internet to people who need it. And so this first segment I wrote down, it's the 10-year Iron Man and it's Dark Knight.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Iron
it's
Man,
2008, yeah.
Dark Knight, and Wanted. Remember that movie? That was in there
Yeah,
too. In like
yeah.
a 1 month span, they all came out. Because
Yeah.
Iron Man came out in May, and then Wanted came out like a week after Dark Knight did. Dark Knight came out like early June. It was like
Yeah.
June 9th or 10th.
Wait, was Wanted the Angelina Jolie movie?
Yeah.
I thought the
Morgan
sounded
Freeman.
familiar.
Which was also a comic book movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like the dawn of the comic book movie era. It was those movies where everyone was like, shit, we can take risks. We can actually
Yeah.
make... I mean, The Dark Knight should have been nominated for Best Picture that
Oh,
year. It was
definitely.
nominated for everything else.
Absolutely.
And it actually led, because it wasn't nominated for Best Picture, it led to them opening up to
More,
between 5 and now up to 10 every year for Best Picture in the Academy Awards.
Yeah, that's why that happened.
So, I mean, I don't know if we've actually hit acting in a superhero, maybe with Logan last year.
Oh, yeah.
But if we've hit acting as good as in The Dark Knight, though, for a superhero movie.
I did want to throw in also, I believe Incredible Hulk, I think, also came out that same year.
Year before.
It was the year before, 2007?
Ooh, actually, no, wait, you may be... I thought it was 2007, but you might be right. It might have been early 2008 when that came out. The Edward Norton one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that actually... I thought it was the year before, but you could be right.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Because Iron Man launched the Marvel cinematic universe. That was the one,
that was-
and it was supposed to be the Hulk with Edward Norton, and it just got middling reviews. Edward Norton kind of burned all of his ships.
Wait, when you say launched, do you mean that it was the first one released, or that it was the first one that like really took root?
Technically, Edward Norton's Hulk is the first in the cinematic universe. That's
Okay.
the one with.
No, you mean not in the chronology? No, because no.
Yeah.
No. Because Tony Stark is at the end of that movie. Iron Man's definitely first. Like, there's no question about that.
Oh, had
I don't
Samuel
think so.
Jackson already gotten Tony Stark by that time?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because we're 2008's Iron Man in the Dark Knight, so that's Iron Man's the first of the Marvel movies, and then
Are we not counting X-Men?
No.
X-Men's a Fox movie.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not the same universe. Like not the first of this of Iron Man, Captain America, the Avengers, like
The film tie-ins.
this
Got you.
universe of.
But I feel like X-Men was the first superhero movies that went mainstream. Right?
No, dude, Batman was in '89.
Right,
Superman was in
But like
78
Batman
or something.
as like a Batman, I don't think is. Well, I mean, it is.
Well, they've been making
straightforward.
Superman movies for.
Exactly. I mean,
Well-
what we're talking
Yeah.
about is we're talking about the golden age
Yeah.
of comic book adaptation movies right now.
I guess.
Now,
I guess to be fair, if I apologize because we did say, like in Dan's defense, like for coming up with other like, oh well, this was a Fox movie and it was really good. The like Batman, of course, is DC and not in that universe, but at the very least, like the biggest of those of like any of the comic book things I would say like is the Marvel universe, are the Marvel movies, and it's a 10-year anniversary of the first of that.
exactly.
Yeah, so even disregarding Dark Knight.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you could say that, like, even to pave the way for that, X-Men would be like the first to pave the way for the ones we have now. It would definitely be a valid like. If
Right.
you want to say that like X-Men, the first one.
Oh man, that one
Yeah.
too. What a piece of shit that movie is.
You watch that now, it is bad.
I still
It's, like,
disagree with
so
that.
shitty.
I like that movie a lot.
When was the last time you watched that movie? The first X-Men.
I don't know, a few years ago.
There are some
Really?
there's some cool parts. I've watched some scenes. I'm like, okay, like this whole scene is really cool, but like the stuff at the end, like because that was like solidly in the time whenever every action movie ended with just some like whatever explosions, blah blah blah. It doesn't matter. Like bunch of stuff blows up, good guys win, the end. Like that's every single time, like in that time period.
Yeah.
So like the shit on the Statue of Liberty, you're like,
I mean,
this.
yeah, well, I mean, it's not why we're here right now, but yeah, I will benefit of the doubt always. Next time I sit down to watch it, which will happen because I do own the DVD proudly. It's on my shelf. But yeah, I'll sit down and I'll keep that thought in mind when I watch it. But I don't know. I had nothing but good thoughts when I saw it. Maybe, yeah, some of the cheese at the end, like first of all, Storm, the dumb lines. We talked about that. That's bad editing.
Yeah.
And like him clawing around the statue's one crown spike
Yeah.
didn't look too good, but that's a effects thing. It's not really storytelling done badly or anything. It's just
Yeah.
and that and like he kind of like becomes a nicer person in like the like, oh, this character's had a journey thing by the
Oh,
end.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like oh well, at least if I don't make it, then you can still blast the damn thing. You're not that nice of a guy, Logan.
Right. Yeah. No, like I said, there's some great like pieces in that movie for sure. In fact, like I watched the when you first see the Wolverine, like
That's one of my
that
favorite
scene.
moments.
It's so I get chills whenever I hear like because it's like the guy in the cage and Wolverine like that guy tries to punch him or something. And he like breaks his hand and then just like knocks him out with his head. I think.
Yeah. Well, here's
Oh
something-
yeah, that was really sweet.
Really cool, yeah. Till that point, you had never seen a live action Wolverine before. You're in like you hear the clank of the metal, the like guy hitting his head, and you're like, oh shit, I know who that is. And then like you don't see his face at all. He's just like leaning up against the cage. You see his back; he's all fucking ripped and shit. And then then I was like, ladies and gentlemen, your winner and still a champion of the cage, the Wolverine. And you see him smoking that fucking cigar, and like. Now I've seen Wolverine on screen. That's fucking amazing. Like that,
Yeah.
that's the first time you ever see him. Anyone's ever seen him on like a
yeah.
That's valid. That is
Awesome.
But there's a lot to be desired for the rest of that movie.
for sure. Yeah.
only-
The rest of it's terrible.
Only thing I don't like is Halle Berry in that movie. Like it's through and through, like
See-
front to back. But other than that, I think everything's good casting. It's
After seeing Angela Bassett in Black Panther with white hair, my casting was confirmed that she should have from the gate been Storm.
Yeah, I agree with
Like
that.
Angela Bassett is perfect. She looks. That's exactly how I would think. Storm
Yeah,
would look.
in fact, I'll take your nomination over mine. I had originally thought Vanessa Williams would have been perfect, but Angela Bassett has, because she doesn't have brown eyes either. It's blue eyes, I think.
Yeah,
and
Storm has white eyes. I think it's supposed to have like gray eyes or something.
yeah, and so for that reason, just for that reason, I that maybe that's why my mind first goes to Vanessa Williams. But,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, Angela Bassett looks awesome with white hair too. Like, and that it should have. In any case, whichever of those two was the right answer, they chose the wrong answer.
Absolutely.
My pick when I was a kid, because I was a kid and I was 15 or 16 when that came out, but that was like a huge deal because I was a huge X-Men fan. We all were, you know, that was freaking out when that movie came out.
Yeah.
And there were like all these like message boards of like, who would you pick? They always are.
Yeah.
Like, who would you pick for your perfect whoever?
Oh, yeah.
I picked the chick that plays Hillary on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh wow, that'd be all right. She's probably like, as far as the face, I don't know.
Yeah, like she's kind of hot. You throw some white hair on her, and
Yeah.
I don't know if her acting chops.
I have no idea
Yeah.
either. But I just thought she was hot and I liked her.
Although, what if she's like not that good of an actress, but they went with it anyway, and then she's up there as Storm, like, do you know what happens to a toad when it gets struck by lightning?
She only knows how to act as one character.
Yeah.
She's not doing anything. We could probably fund this for like $1,000. That's a GoFundMe I'm willing to start right there.
That'd be amazing. Oh shit! I mean, most people would do it for $1,000. I think like regular actors would do it for $1,000. Like, this is gonna take 5 seconds to shoot. We'll come to you. Like, just tell us where you're gonna be. We'll shoot this thing for It'll take 5 seconds. Give you $1,000. Done.
Most actors who haven't acted in 15 years.
Oh no. Well, definitely that. But I'm saying like people who even are like work now. Like, work is work. You know.
No way, dude. Do you know how many people would pay $1,000 to have like 5 minutes with, I don't know, Jennifer Lawrence?
You just have to know who to talk to and who to offer the.
Like, hey, would you do this
How to get to
for $1,000 for 5 minutes? Like, no. I just made $10 million in like 2 months.
There's
Like,
certain people that you can do. I don't know about Jennifer Lawrence. Like, you can't do that with Will Smith. Will Smith is worth, at any given point, $10 million. If you want him to get out of bed, he's worth $10 million.
Yeah.
Well, if at that point, like you'd probably just ask Will Smith to do it for free.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like, hey man, could you just do this? Like,
And hope that he's
I have nothing.
interested.
There's nothing I can offer you that would be
Yeah.
of value to you that I can offer to do this for me. But can you just do it, please?
you're right. It's insulting to
be nice.
actually
Yeah.
offer that person money at
Yeah,
that point.
yeah.
Like, if somebody offered me a quarter to climb a ladder, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, you'd be like, I'll just climb the ladder.
It's insulting. Yeah, just do
Save
you
your
really
money.
need me to climb this ladder? Like,
No,
give me a
but
purpose,
now
not a quarter.
Imagine you're walking down the street downtown, and there's some fucking dumb shit like Duquesne student who's there, some college student who's like, hey bud, hey, will you climb this ladder for $1? And you're like, no. Why would I do that? They could be a totally nice, great person who have some really interesting ideas, but it's like you're. I'm not climbing that ladder, man.
I already had
I'm-
plans that day. I was going to bake baguettes, but now I'm destroying your ladder because that was so insulting. That's what I'm doing.
Or fuck you, or no, just no. Like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm just not going to climb a ladder for you. Would you read these lines? No, I'm not. Why?
Sylvester Stallone there was a Lipton iced tea commercial that he did, like claymation.
Lipton
And-
Brisk. That's brisk,
yeah.
baby.
Yeah, that one. You remember?
I remember that one.
Oh, yeah.
I think they
I
offered
love
him-
those commercials.
I think they offered him $5,000 for the voiceover for that, and they were like, "Listen, we're going to do it anyway. You can I know that because I saw the commercial. And I'm like, what the hell? And then like sometime after that, he was promoting a movie. And I think it was on Jay Leno or something. And Leno asked him about it, and he said, "Okay, so they called me or spoke through whoever talked to me and said, look, we're going to do this. There's nothing you can do to stop us." But the gig is yours if you want it. This is what we're able to offer. We hope that you accept it, but we'll just find somebody who can come close otherwise. And he's like, well, okay. And so
That's great.
yeah.
Because like, why not?
Yeah.
You know, it's like they're honest with you. Like, we're trying to do this thing, and like we'd love for you to do it. Please, like, to help us out. We can't really help you at all, but it'd be nice if you could.
It's a clay motion commercial.
right. Yeah. People are gonna like it. They'll like you more, like for being in it.
That was a callback to Clay Motion.
Clay Motion.
Like making things that people are passionate about. That was part of one of our other podcasts.
I thought you were just trying to sound like me. Play motion.
That's a good one. Yeah. So,
Yeah. So
Anyway, I do not think you could get any actor to do anything for $1,000. But I do think you could get an out-of-work actor to do anything for $1,000.
or like a character actor or somebody. You know, like somebody's not pulling down, you know, somebody who's like on a day rate of like, you know, they're making like $300 a day or $500 a day or something.
Who's making $300 a day that's famous?
People who aren't famous. People who are like you'd be like, oh fuck, I've seen that guy in a million things, like that kind of
yeah,
person.
like consider Jack Black. Okay, when School of Rock came out, that was what 2003.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay, so think about. We all grew up with Jack Black, right? Like, you guys remember Jack Black being in the 90s and being people. That I remember seeing an interview with him, and he said, it was in Rolling Stone, and he said that was the most money he's ever been paid for a role. He made $1 million.
Yeah.
So think about that. In 2003, Jack Black, at arguably the height of his popularity, made $1 million for that movie. He's not making tens of millions of dollars. A lot of these people don't make that much money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when did he have this interview? When was this interview?
2003.
So, up until that point. I mean, he's, like, doing shit.
Oh, he's okay now,
like,
yeah.
Since then. So, up until that point. In School of Rock, I mean, I feel like he was known, but there was Tenacious D.
Yeah.
Well, they had a couple songs that people knew.
He was in a bunch of stuff, though, before that. Like, he was he was in a ton of movies.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that one with Bruce Willis.
Yeah, and the one...
Jackal.
Jackal.
Whatchamacallit?
Oh, yeah.
High Fidelity?
Fidelity, yeah.
Oh, that's right. He was in High Fidelity.
Yeah.
The best part of High Fidelity.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. He definitely... His character, especially when they came on and... what was their band called?
I can't remember.
Oh, it was so good. But his version of it was the Al Green Stay Together, I think.
I thought it was Let's Get It On.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. That sounds right.
Yeah,
I can visualize
he does that crazy...
It might be.
Let's Get It On.
That was brilliant. That was really, really good.
Yeah.
And that's on the soundtrack for the movie is Jack Black doing that song.
Yeah.
Which gives the original a serious run for its money, in my opinion.
Jack Black is a great vocalist.
Yeah.
He's a really great vocalist. And if he were more serious about doing like, I mean, I guess you can't say he's not more serious about doing music, but like if he just did like a heavy metal album that was like a real one or like a serious one, whatever you want to call it, a not fucking around one,
Or a soul album.
Everyone would or a soul, anything, He's a really good.
Like his voice
vocalist.
is like I feel like up there with Al Green. Like they have like similar styles.
I can see that.
For sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I dig it.
But, I mean...
Anyway,
To circle back.
He got paid $1 million.
Yeah, and we're not going to pay him $1,000 to reenact Toad in X-Men. It's not going to... Most of these people were not going to be able to do that. But to circle it back to the actual subject matter here. So, where are we now? 10 years later. I mean, we have the Avengers...
We're about to have an Infinity War with like every single character that they've come out with so far, almost.
Did you ever think?
No.
Remember, we saw. I'm pretty sure we saw Iron Man in theaters together.
I couldn't believe whenever at the end of Iron Man I heard the word Avengers and I was like, no,
Right.
That means that they have to make a Captain America movie, and no one has the balls to do something like that, or like, I couldn't believe that. So now here we stand.
Yeah, and it's almost. I feel like there's also an oversaturation of this so much now. People don't realize how special this is for the. I guess we're fucking millennials now. That's what we are. That's our generation. We just have to accept it, regardless of what anybody says. But this millennial generation that grew up in the '90s with comic books, that I had every action figure. I was at Phantom of the Attic every single day. Maybe not every. That's hyperbole, but I was there as much as my parents would let me get there. Okay, I wanted my Pogs to have X-Men on them.
Yep.
That's what I wanted. and I used my imagination, and every single day I imagined these elaborate plots that I had, and I had a Sabretooth action figure. I'm so fucking pissed my parents threw it away.
Which one did like
The orange one?
So the one with like the fur collar?
Yeah, fur
Okay,
collar.
cool. So the one that looks like the one from the show.
Yeah, and I remember because I had that one. It was my favorite action figure.
That one's awesome.
I don't think I was old enough to comprehend even like what the ongoing things that were happening within the comics and everything.
Right.
I had Wolverine, old school Wolverine, brown and yellow with the retractable claws.
Right.
And then I had Sabretooth, and Sabretooth was my favorite, and we moved, and they threw it away.
Ugh.
And yeah, I might actually... I might kill them someday over that. I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
That's a fair point, though. You just made me think about not being able to comprehend, really understand any storyline, because I couldn't tell you necessarily what the storyline was of any of the comic books that I really dug at the time.
Yeah.
It was just relating to a character or wanting to be like a certain character and just watching everything, reading everything that they did and being like, oh, yeah, like that. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something there, like some sort of, like Jared, you'll be like, oh, ask people, what turtle are you? And it says something about your personality.
Yeah.
Same way with your the superheroes that resonated with you, which is interesting, perhaps, because so many people I know, Wolverine is their character.
Yeah.
Everybody was super stoked about Wolverine. So
Yeah.
does it say that we're a bunch of bitches that want to be more like Wolverine?
I just think...
Or are we a bunch of badasses who can empathize?
I think maybe it's a lot of people who wish that they cared less about stuff. Because
Or,
he doesn't give a fuck at all.
It's probably a good point, yeah.
He's so old that he doesn't really care about anything.
No, I think a lot of this has to do with when you... And I might be wrong here, but I'm going to put myself on a limb, and I think this is accurate. At a very young age, I could recognize through both my parents telling me things and going to school that I wasn't invincible, that at any given moment this world could crush me, and that in growing, and I understood growing and what I could do, that I would eventually hit a certain point where I could not grow anymore. And when you involve something like that, I think the mentality of it is, what do I want to eventually peak at? What do I want to do? And there's so much hyperbole with that, with the introduction of superheroes. And you think to yourself, well, I see these things. Like my friend Johnny, his grandmother died. Well, if I was Wolverine, I would make sure that Johnny's grandmother wouldn't die. And you start to think like that, logically. Like, what would I do at the best of my abilities? Because these abilities that I see seem to be the best in the entire world. And I think that has a lot to do with it. So you're not understanding the concept or the minutia of what's actually happening in these comic books or TV shows, but you see the outcome and the max that these characters represent, and you emulate that in your own mind, and that's who you want to be.
How would you do that as Wolverine, though?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
I thought I smoked all the weed earlier.
No, I mean, what do you mean is Wolverine? Like, do you mean to stop the cancer?
Yes.
Yeah.
You just rip all the cancer out with your fucking claws. You're 5. You think that works?
Good answer.
Yeah. That's
You're
fair.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. You don't understand how cancer works. You understand that Wolverine is awesome and that it sucks that Johnny's grandmother died. And if you had bones that didn't break, you would fight cancer on a mountain somewhere.
In the rain.
Yeah.
Uphill both ways.
As you were saying that, though, I was thinking, when I was a kid, I didn't really have this sense of mortality or some fear of death or anything like that, but I was definitely afraid of everything, as many kids are. Just you don't know about anything, so everything's kind of scary. And I think the thing that was so cool about Wolverine, I think, possibly, for me, was that he wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid of shit. It was things might be difficult, but he had the confidence to know oh, I can handle this shit. I'm not going to be afraid.
Right.
And as a kid, that's the... If you're not afraid as a kid, that makes you, A, an adult's worst nightmare, and B, a superhero, too. Because you can goddamn do anything. You're immune mostly from the repercussions of the law. Your body is essentially like Wolverine. Like, you can fucking get hurt and heal the next day.
Yeah.
And all of the programming that kids are getting, like, don't do this because this will happen. And it's like, well, that doesn't actually happen. Like, you're just controlling me through. It's taking away adults and society at large's greatest tool for manipulating behavior, which is fear.
Yeah.
And it still works, like with adults. Like, that's the number one tool and tactic they use to get us to behave in a specific way is fear.
Yeah.
So you scare a kid, they don't do shit. Wolverine would look at them square in their fucking eyes and say, "Stick it up your ass, bub." And he'd light a cigar, and he'd hop on his motorcycle, and he'd do something really cool, and he might beat someone up who
Yeah.
made him mad. And I think that as a kid, I needed that, and I think as a society, we need that still.
Yeah.
Wolverine for president.
Now I want to be Wolverine again. Okay. Yeah.
There's actually something also interesting now that we're talking about this that I'm thinking of, and we might have to delete this entire segment from this point forward, but I'm going to bring it up anyways.
Just give it a pause then. Okay.
I hate to even formulate this because it was just an idea that I just had. I haven't thought about this previously, so I could be terribly wrong. But I have not stopped watching, for the most part, children's programming. And I put that in quotation marks because there's a lot of really good quality cartoons out there that are there for everything.
Yeah.
I still like Phineas and Ferb. I think it's a great show.
It's funny.
It's funny. Yeah. It is.
The Turtles cartoon, the recent one, is fucking amazing.
Yeah. I think that there is a lost message with PC culture. We've gone to a very extreme with that mindset and that programming that could, not saying it has, that could have led to a recent, in the last 20 years, uproar and violence like we have with these school shootings that are happening. I think there's a more acceptance of violence and a more straightforward message of this for these cartoons and comics that we read growing up. There's a lot more there that is saying a more structured message, I would say, for what we grew up with than, I would venture to say, 1998 to 2000 on. It was very different. I feel growing up, still being a child at that time, that there was a definite shift in the way that a lot of those cartoons and a lot of those TV shows that are geared towards children, it was a softer message. It doesn't prepare you for a certain amount of life that those previous shows did.
Oh, so you're saying that because the cartoons were like not as rough and not kind of saying like sometimes shit is hard, you got to get over it, instead of being like you should probably try to consider everyone else's feelings first. That now people have the they might tend to be more passive aggressive and thus like save a lot of things up in here and
Exactly.
and developmental issues and then act on them.
Yeah, and we're not going to solve on this podcast the solution behind like gun control or anything, and I don't even want to get into that. I don't want to talk about it.
Don't put limits on us before we tried things.
Yeah.
We can,
We got 5 Wolverines right here.
But when you look back on that, and a lot of times, especially like X-Men, the animated series, and guns aren't the answer, is a lot. That's a lot of that. It really happened multiple times. Magneto was like, "Fuck your guns, whatever."
Yeah.
And then Professor Xavier comes up and he's like, "No, this isn't the right way to do this. Fuck your guns, whatever." They had two different. That's a dichotomy right there that has been represented over and over and over again. Professor X and Magneto for whatever you're doing, but there's always something there that kind of guides you into the right place, and they take really harsh, almost stabs at your beliefs as a young kid, saying you're empowered to do whatever you want. Aside from the drug thing, drugs were always bad, but anything else, they were like, you're going to become an adult. You have to make the right choices. You have to do the right things. These are the bad things. These are the good things, but you decide whatever. I just don't see that in modern-day comics. I really don't see it in modern-day cartoons. I don't see it in structured programming for children. It seems much more.
So you're saying there's not good and evil anymore. It's just like there's a lot of more gray.
And you know what? The moral gray isn't the gray that you experience as an adult. It's like, well, I don't know. Well, you should just be nice to your neighbor. And if you're not nice to your neighbor, maybe talk to your mom about it. And if your mom's not available, maybe watch this show again.
Well, it's like if you're not nice to your neighbor's going to call you a racist, homophobic, misogynist. You know, it's like there's like a different. It's a different kind of fear. You know, it's a different. It's not this like clear and present danger. You know, like there's a bad guy, there's a situation, there's a dark alley, there's a fucking wild animal. Put up your dukes. Rise to the occasion. It's more of this like thought police, like this like Fahrenheit 450. This
451, yeah.
451 of like, oh, like I could be fucking up and not even know it. Like I have to be afraid of things that I haven't even thought of yet because once I think them, and
that's a good way of putting that.
Yeah, it's like being afraid of. It's like having this constant reminder, like being afraid of cancer or something.
Yeah.
Just like this insidious. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. You can take measures. You can eat right. You can not smoke. You can not drink. You can fucking not breathe in asbestos. But guess what? Like there's cars and there's planes and you have to get X-rays and you have to you get fluoride. And it's just. Like, fuck, man. At some point, you just pop, and you're like, fuck this. I can't take it. Like, fuck you for making me scared, and you, and you, and you. And it's everybody's fault, and it's the fault of everything out there. Like, this world is fucking terrifying. And in reality, it's like, you just got to be afraid of the shit you should be afraid of. You should be afraid of, like, rabid dogs.
Immediate danger.
Bad guys with masks.
Did you guys ever... I mean, quicksand. I thought as a kid I'd run into quicksand all the time.
Yeah, I've never encountered quicksand.
You have no idea. I have been so ingrained with the fear of quicksand that when I was in Colombia hiking through the fucking jungle, I thought I was afraid that I was going to walk through quicksand.
Yeah.
There was one point I was walking through a stream and the sand was soft and I was like,
Oh shit!
is this quicksand?
Honestly, I don't even know. Does it exist? Is that a real thing?
I think so. I don't even know.
I've looked it up a couple times, and I don't rightly. It's probably like one of those 4 a.m. Wikipedia rabbit holes. But like, I know it is sort of a thing, but it's not anything like you have seen in the movies.
So it's not as fast as Beyond Thunderdome or Princess Bride.
No,
It's like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no,
With the kids?
exactly.
Yeah.
Princess Bride is maybe the most terrifying depiction for me
Yeah.
of quicksand, just period.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Flat out.
Yeah.
Because you don't even have time to take a breath on that one.
No.
Yeah.
At least in Beyond Thunderdome, it was like, I mean, that kid eats it down there, but so like they weren't able to.
I don't remember that depiction.
It was like they don't show them like first getting to it. You happen upon their scene and they're already like trying to rope the one kid out and they lose him. But how wide is that area? Because all that sand looks the same. It's a desert, but just in this one area, I don't know.
Right, and where the fuck is the sand going? Anyway.
that's the thing. Like, it's usually like it's mostly water with like so you have some land like and then you have that has sand on it and then you have like a body of water with this mixed with so it's like muddish.
So is it like sand sitting on top of water? Is that what it is? So there's actually nothing support. Like it just happens to be sitting on top.
I honestly don't remember, but I think it's something like that because it's never like a. Because exactly, where would the sand go? It's not an hourglass,
Yeah.
Right? Is it just like circulating back up?
Right, yeah.
Is it like
Man.
it's not like a motion feature.
right? Some pump pushing it back to the top.
The fucking problem, though, was that I thought this was going to have to be in Verona. Like, I thought if I was going to ever leave Monroeville, quicksand was everywhere.
Man, that would be a really cool idea for a fountain though. But it's like an anti-fountain. It's a quicksand fountain. Like if you say you had like outside, instead of having a water feature, you had like something that would recycle sand like up into like so just all keep flowing down to the center of the thing.
Everyone's dream come true.
Jared, edit that out. So no one else hears this.
Until somebody's horse dies in it.
Well,
It's
you
really
said
cool.
we said when you were in the jungle or whatever, you were like scared of quicksand. Yeah. Did you ask anybody? And they were like, "Stupid bastard."
No,
Stupid American.
Because what happened
Quicksand.
was, so
or like when you're leaving and you say, hey, but like as you're getting on the plane, hey, by the way, there's not like real quicksand here or anything. Oh yeah, people die all the time. It's real.
They were like, "Yeah, there was more of us when we left." You look around, you're like, "Ah!"
every trip
He's
we
inside
lived
that
through-
plane. Like,
Hyperventilating in the plane. Excuse me, do you have a paper bag?
No, what happened was, so
did you ask around?
no. So
You seen that shit?
so Natalie and I had hiked to this like remote beach, right? And then the mud was so deep getting there. It was literally at points up to our knees. So fucking ridiculous. Like it was a trudge. It was so fucking hard to get there. It would have been if the ground was solid, it would have been a nice, 15, 20-minute walk. It took us over an hour to get through this mud, covered in mud by the time we got there. So coming back, I was just like, okay, where we were staying was like in the fucking jungle, and I was like, so we're oriented roughly like here. I was like, I think if we walk the coastline, then we can kind of circumvent a lot of that really muddy terrain. So we started walking, and then we hit this little like jungle river stream. So it was anywhere between like a foot and 3 feet at any point, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I remember crossing this because we took horses to get into this fucking camp because it was treacherous to walk there. It took like an hour and a half on horses. Like it would have taken us fucking 5 hours on foot. And so I was like, I remember crossing this stream river thing. I was like, I think we can follow this up to the entrance. And so we're walking, and at one point, it's like 30, 40 minutes. And then like the sand's really soft. I mean, it's a riverbed, stream bed. I was like, I would sink down sometimes, like up to my like halfway up my shin. I'm like, is this quicksand? I do know that if it's quicksand, I need to even out my weight. I think it's just like ice. I was like, I don't think there's fucking quicksand, dude. But I mean, eventually, whatever. It was a really nice hike. Aside from the panic I got from the quicksand
From the swamps of sadness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Artax, no.
You had horses with you. I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
There were. I did have a horse.
But
I don't know if he
got
made it
lost
out
along the
either.
way.
Yeah.
Why'd you have to say that?
I did have a horse for part of the journey.
Now everyone is sad.
But no, so I didn't have anyone to ask. But to answer your question, Jared, if there were someone around, I would have been like, so how many people have experienced quicksand in this journey?
And they're like, well,
One guy in the back.
we're
"I
not
was
really.
down by this river. He's like, dude, I was there too. Like, I think it might have been. I didn't stick around long enough though.
And then they're like, well, we're not really sure. Like, we're not sure if it's quicksand or tigers. I guess not tigers.
No,
like,
what?
like
Tigers are quicksand?
jaguars. Whatever big cats are down there.
The Colombian tigresses. No, but I mean, in that situation, a whip would be very helpful. You get a good one around a branch.
Oh, yeah.
Which brings me to my next point, is that I think Indiana Jones is actually at fault for a lot of this, too.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Pits
Yeah.
of snakes don't exist, but I was always terrified of them. Like, that was going to
What snakes don't
happen.
exist?
Pits of
Yeah.
snakes.
Pits and snakes.
Pits of
Pits of
snakes.
snakes.
Pits of snakes. Oh,
I
sorry.
feel like the only like all in our generation of people, like some people's entire vision of like the world is entirely Indiana Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the Reds, it's like, what do you think of when you think of a jungle? I don't know, a temple with a big rock rolling around in it. When you think of the desert, well, yeah, falling through a ceiling and you find a fucking
Pit of
replica of an ancient Egyptian city and a pit of snakes. Yeah.
And, I mean, a lot of that stuff, too.
What does India look like?
Yeah, it started with like Indiana Jones and like-minded adventure movies, and those tropes carried on, and then they carried on with our generation in an evolution of video games to like Lara Croft Tomb Raider Nick Drake and Uncharted and things like that. So it just evolved, and those stereotypes are just still there.
Yeah.
I still think that way. I admit that. I know it's wrong, but I just do it. Like that.
That's 100% the case. I talk to people all the time who are like reasonable, intelligent people, and you tell them you travel to certain places, they're like, "Weren't you afraid?" Of what, man? Of the pit of snakes, of the quicksand, of the cannibal, what indigenous tribes? Like, to be honest, like initially, yes. I quickly realized that these were all seeds planted by movies from my childhood.
Good delivery on that one.
Yeah.
Well done. But yeah, going back to our childhood, the early 90s, the late 80s, those types of things there, I think there is a difference in the subject matter. I think there's a difference in the way that the subject matter is conveyed to current generations, these younger kids. I'm not suggesting this is leading to school shootings or anything, and that's not my intention here. But I do think that
I wish we had enough listeners that someone would accuse you of that, though.
I do, yeah. 'Cause, no, that's absurd. That's absolutely absurd. But I think in all the finger pointing over the years, I think in all the pop culture that has been blamed, I think in all the real logical reasons behind a lot of these things that are happening right now.
It was Mortal Kombat.
Well, it was Mortal Kombat. It was
joking.
Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
No, it was that's what they were blaming. I remember Columbine very distinctly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're right.
and it was Mortal Kombat. It was Marilyn Manson. It was The Matrix. It was these things,
Which it totally wasn't at all.
No, it wasn't. There's mounds of proof behind that.
Yeah.
But we saw a difference in the way that we are creating content and the way we're distributing content. It's nothing so on the nose. It's not anything like we no longer talk about guns. We obviously do. We no longer talk about violence. That's everywhere. It hasn't left our culture. It hasn't left pop culture. It's all there.
Well, it's funny. Just sorry, real fast. But just
No.
the gun thing is like when you're talking about kids and stuff. Like we used to have far more realistic looking guns, like
Yeah,
as toys and stuff.
for sure.
But
Absolutely.
now that you everything has an orange tip on it, or it's some crazy neon color or something. It's like we're. I mean, kind of.
That's a really interesting point. because
Romanticizing.
It wasn't until after like our relative generation, people who are 25 plus at this point. It wasn't until after that these school shootings started happening.
Yeah.
And this is we were raised, I think, in every subsequent generation was raised in a much more overtly violent culture and society.
Right.
Like this was fist fights were. It's funny. Like fist fights were common. Fist fights were things that you did. You had a problem. That's you have a scuffle. There were a lot of other things present too. There was institutionalized racism and like a lot of really terrible things that also went along with that culture. But it's interesting that the more pressure we put on like subduing or repressing exhibitions of violence in that way,
So
then there's this inverse relationship to like how violent things get at their worst.
Right. I see where you're, I see where you're going with this. Where it's like like whenever like say back in the day, if some kid was at school and he had pissed off, he'd be like to the black kid, be like, "Fucking nigger!" and then
Bleep that. Just bleep that.
they have like a fist fight or something.
Yeah.
Whatever. But like now, if say like people,
Did you ever see that happen?
Someone,
I-
well, I just mean like
Okay.
way back in the day, like whenever you the 50s or something.
Okay.
40s.
Okay.
Like,
I thought
what-
you meant.
what-
I thought you meant when we were at school. I was going to say that.
Oh
that
no!
never
No!
happened.
Oh no! 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 No!
I don't think
Not
Woodland
for
was
us.
that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No! I'm talking about way back in the day. Whenever people say like,
well, usually when you say
segregation
way
first.
back in the day, you mean your day. Usually you don't mean.
sure,
Okay.
fair enough.
Yeah.
But no, like 40s, maybe whenever that was the sort of thing where like the teacher would be like, "All right, let's everybody settle down," like but not like you're expelled, obviously.
Right.
But like,
And then it becomes national news
right, exactly.
about somebody who's using racial expletives.
right,
Sorry, but go ahead.
right. No, exactly. So because like it's a kid, say a kid who was raised in a whatever is for some reason super fucking racist. Like, if it knows that if they said something like that, that would happen. That they would like be famous and their life would be over. So
Yeah.
like eventually they have all these like crazy fucking thoughts bouncing around and they have no way to express them out loud. So they're just like, well, I guess I'm going to shoot everybody.
Because there's nothing getting it out of their system. is
Right,
what I was
right,
gonna
right,
say
right.
before. I've never I've never brought guns into my school and killed people. But
Wait, you started with I've never considered, then you stopped.
never mind. So no, but I played Doom and Quake, and because I can't blast demons in real life, so
Right.
I don't know, or whatever, all that stuff.
But it's whenever it's like if you're in a relationship and you're in a good relationship and you could talk about stuff and you're like, hey, you did something that really hurt my feelings. And the other person's like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't even realize that. And you're like, well, it's okay. Now I don't. Okay, now everything's cool. Like, but as opposed to being in a relationship where it's like, I feel like I'm afraid to say anything to this person.
Right.
Eventually, you're gonna be like, I think I might just kill them.
Especially if you're like, I can't talk to this person, and I also can't not talk to this person.
Right.
Like, it's essentially like being in a relationship with someone who has you chained in a basement cell.
Yeah.
Who comes down and sits with you and talks at you constantly. There's nothing you can do about it, and then fucking leaves.
Yeah.
Then you think, I'm going to kill this person. Because instead of taking, it's unfortunate, but the reality is people are racist. Kids are raised in neighborhoods that, it cultivates that sort of mentality, that orientation to the world. You're raised, misogynistically. You listen to, it's in music. I was one of those kids, one of those dumb shit kids. And I never felt the pressure from society that I couldn't talk about it, right?
Yeah.
And what happened was, because I never felt like everything that I thought was wrong and terrible and awful, I just had interactions with people, and I was like, oh, I'm just like a dumb shit kid. Like, I really, I love everybody, as it turns out. All right, these things are just a manifestation of the way I was, the people I hung out with.
Right.
As opposed to like every day, like beaten down for like, oh, you feel this way, this is wrong, you're wrong, this is wrong, you're wrong, this is wrong, you shouldn't think that, you should never think that, it's wrong to have even ever thought that. And it's like, well, fuck, man, like I had these thoughts.
Yeah.
And there was a comedian, I don't know who it was, and it was hilarious. They were saying they found out their wife was pregnant, right? And they found out their wife was pregnant. They were like, I wasn't ready to be a father. I was not even remotely in the mindset of being able to raise a child in any way that would create another good human being. Like, what if I had them and it was here just sitting on stage and I just fucking kicked it? You know what I mean? Like this crazy thought that like we all get, and it's a real thing that happens. That same thing where you're like standing on the precipice of a 200-foot drop, and you think like, what if I just jumped off? Mm-hmm. Or you're having a conversation with somebody, and for no reason, a perfectly nice person, and it goes through your head, what if I just fucking punched them right in the face or kicked them right in the nuts?
We talked about
or
this.
like
It's called staring in the void.
Yeah, staring into the void, right?
Yeah, right. And this is a thing. And can you imagine? Like, I spent the majority of, I spent a margin of my life feeling like I was fucked up for having these thoughts, never acting on them. Right. But you're talking to somebody who's clearly like a feeble old person, and you think like, what if I just jacked you right now,
right in the ribs?
Could
I punch through this person's chest if I tried?
And you're having a really nice conversation. They might have even just like given you cookies or food.
Oh yeah. And you think, can I punch straight through them? And how long would I have to shower this arm?
Yeah.
Right. And it took me until I was in like my mid-20s to realize, oh, that's normal.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's normal.
Yeah.
Like being raised with like these weird cultural norms and mores, even if they do involve like being racist or being misogynistic, like that's also normal.
Yeah.
Like you're okay, buddy. You're 18. You're gonna hopefully you'll move away from these shitheads.
Yeah.
You'll see some different things. You'll learn some life lessons. What you're doing isn't like the what you're thinking isn't the most productive way to think, but it's natural for you to have these thoughts. That's
Right.
okay.
And you shouldn't be afraid to express them to people so that those people can tell you that you're fucking wrong.
And also to hopefully do it in a way, because now my position, whenever I run into, like shitty 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, and they start degrading women, or they start using, derogatory, like racial expletives or like hate speech in general, I'll sit down with them. I'll be like, hey, mate, come on. Like, let's talk. Like, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
Because that's what somebody did with me, and it wasn't like, oh, you fucking racist, homophobic piece of shit, woman hater, like just degrading me and like, making me shrink into myself. They were like, no, I'm not gonna push you down further because you're already, like, your thinking is already low. What I'm going to try to do is elevate you up to where I'm thinking.
Right.
And that's what it's about. It's
Furthermore, that antagonistic way of going about it is, it's the same thing as like, oh, you fucking woman, what? And then like somebody's like, oh, you fucking woman hater. Well, you guys sound the same now. Like it's
right.
Yeah.
that's all.
Right. And I mean, once you get to be, 30, 40 years old, you start using some hate speech, like maybe you need a knuckle sandwich.
Yeah.
But like when you're 15, 16, when you're in high school, man, you're just trying to figure it out. It's like, lift these kids up. Don't like smash them down. And I feel like all of the rhetoric, all the popular media just smashes them down.
Well, I think people smash each other down, especially on Facebook and on social media and shit like that. Because like anytime anybody steps like the littlest bit out of line on like, especially Facebook, like a Facebook comment, it's like hell to pay. Especially if it's a hot topic or something like that, like a political whatever. Somebody says like something that could be perceived as something. Somebody out there is going to be like, oh, I'm going to take that the worst possible way that you could have meant that. And then everyone else is like, oh my God, you're right. This person's a piece of shit. And the person's like, no, that's not what I... Oh, God damn it. Like that happens a lot, probably.
I said you're being a bitch.
And then the conversation just becomes about how shitty you are. Yeah. And you're just like, you know what? I'm just going to delete my Facebook then, I guess. And then I'm going to go stab somebody.
I'm gonna move to a place where no one knows.
Yeah. Exactly. Like that sort of, like making people feel like they can't express themselves is no way of making the world a better place.
Right. And I feel like that's what like the Professor Xavier character did.
Yeah.
Was like took all these people who were like stressed out and fucked up and wanted to like kill everything.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh no, elevate you.
Yeah.
Check this out. Look at the world from this vantage point.
Yeah. And also design like your own costume within the concept though. It's got to be blue and yellow.
Yeah, if you're from our era, it's definitely got to be blue and yellow.
Blue and yellow, yeah.
I don't know. I like the brown and orange.
Well, that's
the 80s.
Yeah, that's like the 80s one.
Yeah, it's the 80s
It's
one.
like the Cleveland Browns version.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was my first one. It was my first action figure. That was the first Wolverine comic I had. I loved it. That was...
Yeah. It's not his original costume, though. The original one is the yellow and black. And blue.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The yellow, black, and blue one?
That's the original, yeah.
Oh.
Is there blue in that costume too?
Yeah, his trunks are blue.
The one in the 90s are...
His boots are blue, too.
Yeah,
One
the
of
very,
90s
very
was blue
original.
and yellow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to bring it all back, 10 years of Marvel's movies. And we have made great lengths as far as these movies go. I mean, we go 3-4 times a year to see these movies, and they're guaranteed sales. It's guaranteed profit from Disney. But now looking back and discussing all this, we obviously it was valid conversation because we all had something to contribute to
Well, we
it.
definitely solved school shootings.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Chris did anyway.
yeah.
Hashtag Chris solves school shootings. That'll go over well.
I subtitled the episode "The Gang Solves School Shootings."
That's fine too. But I think And I am. This isn't. You're not going to put blame on what we're dealing with in America right now. You're not going to put blame at all 100% on any type of entertainment whatsoever. It's not going to happen, and it's ridiculous to do so. But I think that my points were valid, and I think that there is a very definitive dichotomy between what we grew up with versus what is presented to the mass population right now as far as movies go. And I don't think that these movies are doing the same moral justice for this generation growing up right now, for these people that are seeing these movies, that we did with the original content that we grew up with.
I agree. And I agree for the same reason like we've talked about before, which is the investment that comes with seeking something out at a specific place, like a store, and having to buy a book and then investing in that very like active engagement, as opposed to a fairly passive engagement with a movie.
Agree.
It's much more passive.
Ownership is key in something like that. I had to work really hard in order to get a comic book.
Yeah.
I had to do
yeah.
chores, and I had to go. And then that comic book was something like, even if I knew I was ever going to get another comic book, which obviously I knew logically I would, I got everything out of that comic book.
Oh yeah,
I was like,
all the ads and everything. You read every word on every single page.
Yep.
yeah.
Just like video games, you used to play every single until you couldn't play the game anymore.
Yeah.
Until it was either too hard or you beat the shit out of it 40,000 times because you didn't get another game for a long time.
It was a reward for something. You got this as a reward.
Yeah.
As opposed to a movie. I don't know. Like the way I see it now as a movie is like an activity. It's not. I don't think it. In my life, and I think what Chris is talking about, and probably all of us can empathize with, is we got comic books as rewards for doing things, as payment for jobs done or rewards for doing good things. Where movies were like, we're all going to the movie, taking you to a movie, the family's going to the movie, or, whatever.
Well, another family situation may be like, can I go to the movies Friday? Like, sure, as long as you, mow the lawn and, clean your sister's room. I mean, it could be a similar thing. That
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I could see, like, where I do align with you on that is the investment in the character, like the long term, like the longer that has lived with you, that character, then of course that's going to be like that payoff will be that much greater. And that's why the ending of the Logan movie was so impactful, because even if you just watch the movies, that goes for longer than 15 years.
Yeah.
And much longer if you read the comics and stuff. Now, I like movies versus just books in general. I mean, there is like, I love movies, but there's like, I do admit there is a certain like spoon feeding sort of element to it, because all you have to do is just sit there and keep your eyes open and not fall asleep, and you will get, what is a pretty similar experience to somebody else, to the person next to you, in terms of like pacing. It'll be the same volume and everything. Where if you're reading a book, then like if you read in the morning versus at night, it'll probably affect you differently. But as far like these comics in particular, though, when looking at them in book form, in their episodic form versus in the movie, I think like the major advantage that comes along with that disadvantage is that they're so much more accessible. I like what you were saying before about being like just relating to the character more so than the story. It's because I didn't know what was going on with the story, because the story spans for however long. I maybe only saved up enough money to get a single issue of a comic when they were in the middle of this run, and I don't know what the run was because I didn't have the internet. So, like, how do you know what's going on? There's no way to check back on things.
Yeah.
And so all you could do is just say, like, well, it looks like he's fighting a bad guy, and he smacks him around a bit. That's pretty cool, I guess. But like the movie, that in one sitting you can get a beginning, middle, and end, and have a full scope of the big picture. So I mean that's the advantage to that one. And I mean, neither scenario is perfect, but except unless you have the internet, then you can go back and have both. eBay.
Right.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that whole like not knowing actually what's going on with the storyline, the arc of the story, because only latching on to the only thing you have to latch onto is how the characters act in that issue.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, because I had a bunch of comics where it's like, oh, I was on vacation and I saw like this comic cover that I thought looked cool. My parents were like, oh, we'll buy that for you if you want. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I had like one issue of that 7-issue series, and it's one of them in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, I like this character. That seems cool. I have no idea what the fuck is going on.
So the hardcore fans, like I guess like where I will agree that like if they're like people who are just familiar with the movies, yeah, they're not getting as much out of it as the long term fans are. I think that I would specify that just to the hardcore long term fans who somehow did manage to keep up with the story over the years and all the changing versions, and then see how it gets presented on screen for the first time. Like those are the people who are absolutely getting the most out of it.
Oh yeah,
and
but maybe not, because I think that those of us who got one issue in the middle of a run, like we had to create our own endings. We had to inject our own imaginations into what this character is like, what happens next, like what they're doing. We create a story around the story that informs this little snippet of what we get, and then we reread that and reread it and reread it. And for me, it would evolve, you know, like this one book that would evolve as I read it, having no idea really what the greater arc is. In fact, I didn't even know that comic books had story arcs, and like until I was almost done buying comics, you know, like. I think it was the Carnage series when it was like explicitly say like 1 of 7, get the next one that looks like this, and they had like the cool covers and all this shit. And that was rad for me because what I had were just like seeing. It's almost like seeing somebody do something, and you're like, oh yeah, that was a cool thing to do. That was the right thing to do. That was a sweet thing to do. Yeah. Like. And that's all you get, just little pieces of not realizing that there's like a greater context in which it exists, that it has value just in and of itself. You know,
it's probably good writing tool. I can't remember what screenwriter it was. Maybe we were talking about it. That said that their parent used to read them stories.
Damon Lindelof. Fuck that guy. The dude who wrote Lost.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
fuck
Prometheus.
Yeah.
Although apparently The Leftovers is really good.
So fuck that guy and fuck you too, No.
Yeah. But
I'm not saying I would write that way, but I'm saying that I think there is value. I mean, but Lost, no, that there's no excuse for that. You have fucking 7 years. You have 7 years. Let's wrap this bitch up.
Jesus
you know.
Christ, that fucking show.
One last thing we're going to say about this before we actually like move on beyond gun violence, which it's a hot topic. Everyone's talking about it. We should have talked about it. The other thing I was thinking about here, and again, I may be wrong, we have to bleep all this out, is that with the globalization that is happening right now, I personally think it's good. It's something that has happened since the late 80s, that we are globally more together than we ever have been. We have actually had less casualties in these last 50 years, and we've had less conflicts.
Fewer.
Fuck you.
God damn it.
Son of a bitch. Than we ever had previously. I mean, violence worldwide has been down drastically since we've all come together. The UN exists. America has been like the pride and joy of everything. And
I didn't even know Wakanda was there.
You know why it is, Chris? It's because they heard the message. Be excellent to each other.
Yeah.
The message was received.
it was.
Yes.
It was. And I think that may have had an actual detrimental effect on America. Because
no, that wasn't be excellent to each other. It's what you're talking about is the second part of the message, which was party on, dudes.
Oh, yes. Right. Yes. Thank you for that. Yes, I forgot.
My reasoning behind this, Jesus Christ.
Get to the point. What are you talking about?
Stop doing whippets.
We have these people that are actual terrorists and are against ourselves in our own country. Yeah. We have people that cause terror against our own United States citizens. And this is something that's recent when we have very few foreign enemies. So it's something that as we reach out to the rest of the world and we say, hey, Russia, we are now friends now. Hey, Germany, we forgive you for World War II. Hey, Japan, we did a lot of fucked up shit to you. We're sorry. So then you look at history and you look at the way that we have assigned our anger, okay? And you look at the media, okay? You look at Rocky and Bullwinkle, Moose and Squirrel, the Russians were the bad guys, okay? So you can say, no, you're American, you hate the Russians. Or in World War II, you say, no, you're fucking American, you're Captain America, that's the guy that you want to be, you hate the goddamn Germans. You go to Popeye, and you say, Popeye, this is a leader for you, fuck anybody that's Asian. Oh, anybody that speaks Cantonese is garbage, you just fucking punch them in their face. These are things that have happened over the course, and we've always had some world conflict going on, and there's always been somebody, some illustrator, some writer, somebody saying, we unite together. You might not like your neighbor, but you like your neighbor enough to go against whoever you're against. And it's the USA versus everybody else. You don't really get that worldwide. You don't get that in Germany. You don't get that. Now, during wartime, obviously, because it's wartime, but in a time of peace, they don't really do that. They don't have those characters. Nobody has that but us, where we say it's us against the world. So you get into the 90s, and we solve conflicts, obviously. We've had wars. But we also have a lot of people that are against that type of, racial ethnicity and brigading against those people. So from the 90s on, we don't have that. There's no worldwide U.S. against anybody. There's certainly, when 9/11 happened, things like that, we all band together and we say, okay, United States, but do you guys ever remember anybody saying, like, fuck the Muslims? No, obviously, it does happen. I mean, we've seen it as adults.
Yeah.
Sure.
Fuck yeah, I have.
You mean
Billy Graham
oh
was on the goddamn TV preaching
Absolutely.
about, like, you have, like, the fuck the Muslims is...
Oh, yeah. No. It exists in an adult life. But think about it.
I know what you're saying.
Oh,
it's not as overtly like as it was with the Russians, for example.
No.
Like,
So-
there weren't like cartoons like, the
There wasn't a-
antagonist of this cartoon is a Muslim character. People have been like, no, you can't fucking do that.
Exactly.
Or like a Red Dawn, but with,
Right,
like,
right.
Iraqis or something.
Sure. No, they did that with North Korea though. The remake is North Korea.
Pretty recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty recently.
It's also
But also North Korea is like such like in America they're like sort of a joke. Like so like a lot of people are like,
Yeah.
fuck them. What are they gonna do? Like
What was the movie about
Team
North
America,
Korea?
like
North Korea.
yeah. The one with Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
The interview.
The interview.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like that's a commonly kind of laughed at thing. So that's not even that serious. Like no one here is really worried about North Korea invading the U.S. Like it's ridiculous.
No, especially not Red Dawn style.
No.
Like like flying planes in and fucking
Well, that's
like
impossible.
paratrooping into like dropping tanks down in L.A. or something.
I can't even imagine what would have to happen for that to be possible.
But Chris, I think I get what you're saying, which is without a widely accepted common enemy, we start to turn inward.
Exactly.
And we start to eat ourselves. But I would argue that the biggest fucking terrorists in this country aren't the kids who are shooting people and aren't these groups that are preaching hate. It's the fucking media, because a terrorist, by definition, is a person or group of people who use fear and terror.
Yes. I'm totally with you.
They're
misusing information. There's no journalistic integrity. I fucking
right,
hate the news.
Yeah.
Right, and they're using it to take in. Why am I?
Don't you think that has something to do with school shootings? Too?
Oh, no,
The media?
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because if you want to get famous tomorrow, how would you do it?
Yeah,
I'd shoot up a
Kill
school.
a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kill a bunch of people because
Yeah.
the media will put your fucking face everywhere in the goddamn world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I don't think you're arguing against me. I think you're adding to my argument.
No. I'm not arguing against you at
Yeah.
all. What I'm saying is, there's we lack a common enemy, but that's because the media is pushing our attention into these individuals, and it's like, wait a minute, like you guys are forcing our attention to everywhere. Like the only reason that gender pronouns and all of this shit is so much a part of the zeitgeist is because the media has pumped it out so much. It's beaten into your head. And it's like, no, yes. Is it important to... I think it's important that everyone's respected. Sure, this is just like a simple thing. Respect. It's a very simple concept. And when somebody says, I would like to be referred to as she or Z or them as Z, just do it, man. That's just respect. It's simple, right? But like taking and running that shit on CNN and on every fucking social media outlet and just beating it into you, it's like, and it's fear. The reason why people do it is fear. They either want group inclusion, and so they want to be included in some group, or it's a fear of group exclusion.
They don't want to be the person on the news who called somebody the wrong name. Now they're on YouTube.
And in places like, Canada, where you can receive very real, substantial fines for it. Yeah. And I mean, I don't even give a shit about that. Like, whatever you want to be called, I'm happy to call you that. And not because I'm indifferent, but because I care about you and I want to respect the royal you, whoever you are. I want you to be comfortable. But the thing is, I don't like the people pushing these agendas and this fear. The real terrorists are the ones that are feeding us our information on CNN and Fox and Facebook and Instagram and all of these media channels that are run by corporations and companies who don't have our best interests in mind.
And I see.
No, that was Chris.
Oh,
I mean, you can go ahead.
I was going to say, like this starts to dance on the edge, like for me, of like conspiracy territory, where it, it's like, okay, so the idea of like there being like one country full of people is evil, like that's ridiculous. We're too interconnected now to believe that. Like most people don't, like, unless you're in the middle of nowhere, like you've never met anybody else. Like you're in a major city in any of the world, probably. You know that, maybe except for maybe North Korea, you know that like a whole country can't be evil. That's sure. Not how it works. So like they can't, whoever controls the media or whatever. The message can't be this country is evil. Like we're afraid of these people. Even now, it's like Russia and us. We're still kind of like at odds, but we're not like fuck the Russians. It's like, well, I guess Putin's an asshole, and like some people are over there assholes. But I'm sure, like, I've met Russians before. I know it's not, Russians aren't evil. So when you have no enemy like that, how do you maintain like a base level of like fear and distraction in most people? It's by like making everybody fight amongst themselves. Like you say
worse, you make people afraid of themselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then they start seeing that fear in everyone else and they start fucking freaking out.
Right. So yeah, so it's like it really is like a thought police thing, but it's so clever because it's you're dressing it up as we need to make everyone feel comfortable, but what you're really doing is making everyone feel uncomfortable.
Right.
So like because no one can argue against the message of like, hey, maybe you should treat everyone with respect. Like no one can argue that. Like it's an inarguable point. Like most people can be like, yeah, I agree with that. Like imagine a person who would disagree with that.
There isn't.
Can we treat everyone with respect? Like, wouldn't that be nice if we could do that?
The only response to that is a yes but statement.
Exactly. So if you put it under that, like that Trojan horse of that, then you're really eating away at that.
Yeah.
By saying it all the time.
I disagree with this.
Okay.
There is a person out there that will disagree with, let's just treat everybody with respect. I've seen these people.
Okay.
I've known these people. They exist. They do. They exist in our country.
Sometimes it's me, of course.
Yeah. Sometimes it's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah. Okay.
Stop.
That's not the point.
No, it is the point. It actually is. That's the point of all of this, because I just want to bring you in for everything that we've just talked about here. Imagine being that person and you have something you believe in, all right? We all believe in things. I believe in many controversial things, okay? So if I get pinpointed and I'm 13 years old and somebody says something to me and it's a natural conversation, possibly at 13, let's go with 13, okay? And I'm in puberty, and I don't know what the fuck's going on with my body. And this girl starts talking to me. I like her. I start expressing my feelings about something that is controversial, something that doesn't meet the standard guidelines, okay? That's going to happen with people, all right? And it might not be something so, like, you know, this guy's not, you know, waving his finger and saying, the Jews did all this. He's saying something that is just controversial, like his dad voted for Donald Trump, and he agrees with that, okay? He's a 13-year-old kid. He doesn't know any fucking better.
Right.
Or maybe he does. I don't know, but he's fine with that. So then she freaks out. She says, no, that's wrong. Everybody thinks you're wrong. The teachers think you're wrong. You get pulled in, and it's like, no, you seem to be a bit aggressive, and we don't like the way that you've been dealing with this. And he's like, but my dad told me. Well, we don't care what your dad told me. You know what? This is fine. So then you go home, and you watch cartoons, and you say, well, you know, I didn't like that my dad voted for Donald Trump, and I'm watching cartoons, and the cartoons say, well, you know what? This is something that, for better or worse, you just have to swallow inside because that person they need a safe space, and you can't, you know, ask them about these things. So you're like, oh, I can't deal with that. So then you go to your dad, and your dad's like, well, I voted for Donald Trump. And you're like, well, okay, why did you vote for Donald Trump? And he's like, well, he doesn't, you know, really like trans people, and that's what I think. And he's like, okay, should I think that? I don't really know what I think. And he's like, no, you should definitely think that. That's what I'm telling you to do. All right, so you go back to school now, and everybody hates you, okay, because of your dad, but he's your dad. You're not going to, I mean, for most people at that point,
right.
And you're incredibly frustrated, and you're sitting there, and you don't have anything saying, don't kill these people. You really don't. You don't have anything.
Yeah.
In fact, you have everybody saying that you are wrong, and we don't have any structure whatsoever for these people that have not a bad opinion, because I don't want to say that. Sometimes you have a controversial opinion, either way you have it, that society deems incorrect at that time. It could be homosexuality. It could be racism. It could be on both sides, and it depends on where you are. We're not talking about the overall morals, period. We're talking about what is accepted at that time and what you truly believe in. And we're in a very precarious state right now with people that are generally conservative, generally Republican, people that have mental health issues. These are usually the guidelines around these things as to these people that commit these atrocities that are happening, and they have very few outlets. And it's all of these things we've discussed. It's not one or the other. None of these. We can't just go to the media and say, you know what, don't do this. You're a fucking asshole. And they'll say, okay, we won't do that anymore. No, because we still have an agenda on social media. That's not going to change. We still have an agenda with the way that we have, cartoons and comic books and the way that anything's being conveyed, period. And there's no solace for these people. There's not.
But that's everybody. It's not social media, and it's not the media at large. It's not the news companies. What they're doing is they're capitalizing. The companies, the advertising that's on here is capitalizing on. They're capitalizing on these events with the advertising that takes place inside of those. Like, because that's the hot topic. You know, Fox News is gonna spit some sort of rhetoric. CNN is gonna spit a different kind of rhetoric, and so they're fanning the flames to make more money. Yeah. That's like, do you remember the fucking plane crash that happened somewhere in Southeast Asia?
Oh yeah,
they made hundreds of millions of dollars on the deaths of those people, those, 150 people. Each one of those people probably brought CNN and Fox and every fucking buddy else. Every dead person on there probably made them 10, 20, 30 million dollars because they played that shit for weeks. Weeks and weeks and weeks. And every day there would be a air quotes, new development. A new development. New ideas about this. And then you know what would happen? Fucking Tide would come on. It would be a commercial for Tide. And then you would there'd be there's a giant spider on the table.
It's a small spider.
Seems
Hey, fella.
it's a medium-sized spider.
That's a small odd. That's like that
It's
spider
a
stick.
medium-sized spider from Pittsburgh.
It's on the ground now.
But that's what it is. So this is there's solace, but it's not solace for it's one side either supporting you or one side condemning you, and both sides are making money from the same companies that are fueling this entire problem. So Tide is advertising on Fox and CNN, fucking whoever else. Chase Bank is selling advertisements on Fox and CNN. Fucking Bear is selling advertisements on Fox and CNN. And they're both making fucking money. They don't give a shit what they put out there. It's it's what's keeping people fucking tuned in. Facebook is making money off the same companies. It's making money off the Republicans and the Democrats, the liberals and the conservatives. Everybody just keeps fucking buying this shit. Just keep scrolling down, man. Just keep scrolling down. You'll get another advertisement. Boom, there's 10 more bucks. You saw that. That's going to whoever. Like, everybody is feeding the same machine, and they think that they're approaching things from two very different perspectives. But it's just like this giant. It's one monster that's just feeding from both sides.
It's the episode of Black Mirror whenever with the treadmills.
Yeah,
Actually, with the dude from Black Panther, right? Isn't that?
I wish I
from Get
Black
Out?
Panther.
The dude from Get Out?
He's from Get Out.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking. Yeah, that dude.
That's where he's from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, with that dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
that episode where he like tries to rebel, and they're like, "We really love your energy. How about your own show?" And he's like, "Yeah," he fucking accepts that deal. It's
Yeah,
like,
just
okay,
fine.
well, yeah, the machine that eats everything. Like,
Right.
It doesn't matter what it is. Like the machine can adapt to it, and like you can't escape.
No, and that's there's the one philosopher, who was it? De Beauvoir or something.
De Beauvoir.
De Beauvoir.
Simone de Beauvoir.
Yeah, who talks about assimilation, like it's called. I fucking forget, but essentially everything is disempowered. Once it's assimilated into society, it's just disempowered. You have a cause, cool. We're gonna push it out. We're gonna disseminate it. We're gonna dissolve it into society, and then it will lose all potency. You
Yeah.
know,
It's like when you make a serial killer famous.
right? What? Well,
It's like that's the most antisocial possible behavior, and but somehow, like eventually, there's a group of people who makes that person like what is essentially they raise them up to the ultimate level, which is being famous in our society. So it's like they take the worst behavior most of us can think of, other than like rape probably, and made those people famous, which is like are exalting them to the highest level.
Yeah.
See,
They're
but
Jack the Ripper fans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I think what he was talking about is kind of the inverse of that, where you have these counterculture movements, like say punk rock or like the free love movement of the 60s and things like that, where it's like, I put these clothes on because this represents my values. Like, you see me and you know that, like, I am about pacifism and I am about compassion and I am about love. And then you go and you buy your fucking tie-dyed shirts and towels at the Target or the fucking beach boardwalk, and everybody's wearing it. You take a tie-dyed shirt, from the Haight-Ashbury in the early 60s, and you kind of knew what you were getting into. You approach somebody. Now you walk out, and there's somebody with a tie-dye shirt on, at Ocean City that says "Namaste in bed." It fucking disempowers that entirely. It's nothing. It's a puff of smoke. You have the punk rock movement that's like, no, fucking anarchy, fuck you guys, you're getting it all wrong. And now what do you see on the in Paris runways in couture, chic couture fashion? You see spike studded bracelets and big leather boots, and it just disempowers it.
It's like
you just dilute it.
The dude from Catch Me If You Can, the real guy, like how when after he was like caught or whatever, like he worked. They were with the FBI, or I guess the FBI. They were like, so you want a job then, or
Yeah.
because it's like like this guy was fucking with everyone's shit. And the machine's like, you know what? We just use this guy. He's
Right.
better than most of our guys. So
Right.
it's the same thing.
Exactly.
I don't disagree with you by any means whatsoever, but I don't think you're looking at the broad spectrum of what I'm talking about. You're right. You're not wrong. You're 100% correct. But it's one faction of what's actually happening with what I'm talking about. With these, you're right. It's profit, 100%, as far as the media goes. But it's not just the media. It's not. It's the evolution of what we are as a society. And the evolution, I believe, is causing what's happening here.
No, but I don't think the evolution of society is inextricable from media, because so much of our society is based around the consumption of media. Like we evolved. The reason that we have less conflicts and people have more rights and civil rights, human rights are a thing that are a global conversation, is the direct result of media, is the direct result of Twitter, is the direct result of being able to live cast things from the Middle East, Egypt, Iran, everything that was happening with the women, the uprisings in Iran and Syria, and like I believe the evolution of society is being driven. The driving force now is media.
What if society right now is evolving because we're all humans? What if society has throughout its entire history evolved as a human does? Because if you think of it as being this humongous lifespan of humanity as a person, like so. Early days, right? We're just barely out of early days. Just barely. So, in early days, people fucking fighting all the time. Like literally at each other's throats all the time.
Medieval.
Chaos. Medieval, like up until, the 20th century-ish, shit was crazy. Like, no one had any idea what's going on.
Until the 20th century, up until the middle of the 20th century.
Right, sure, yeah. Yeah. Wild shit happening still.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but now we're in that era of maybe we're becoming maybe puberty, where it's like no one's really sure about where this is going. Like we don't know what's happening to our body. Like there's all this crazy shit happening. Like we're no longer just fighting for no reason at all. Now it's like there's all these ideas happening. Like we're not really sure which ones are right and which ones are wrong, and blah blah blah, all that kind of shit. So maybe after another, I don't know, who knows, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 3,000 years, maybe
100,000 years,
maybe 100,000 years, maybe
God
we'll be,
damn.
yeah, maybe we'll be an adult and we'll be like, that'll be the time when we're like, yeah, we should all probably, we got all that out of our system, we're good, like we're all treating each other with respect now, and maybe we all become like one artificial intelligence, whatever, but this period feels like the adolescent period of humanity.
I honestly feel like this period is more like the early toddler period.
Oh, so
humanity.
Like terrible too.
I'm talking so we had an infancy that was 100,000 years.
Right.
Literally 100,000 years, because we couldn't even hear what our parents were saying to us.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We couldn't, they're speaking and all we hear are noises.
Wow, wow,
and
wow.
for the first time, we're able to kind of understand what they're saying.
You're either scared or you're not.
Right. And we have parents who are trying to get us to behave certain ways.
Yeah.
And there's, just lots of hollering back and forth. Like mom and dad, we have a dysfunctional family.
Right.
And we are just sitting here like, fuck. Fuck. So I should like that. No, I shouldn't like that. I should, Are we? We gotta wrap this thing up.
We've been talking for about 7 hours now.
Okay,
so.
yeah.
Where are we at? We
I want to get a flashlight. It's like
You know what?
shine it on your face.
I'm gonna bring it back in. We
You've done that 3 times already. It always fails every time.
I know.
Stop doing it, Chris. I don't
I
want to
know,
be here
I'm
for
sorry.
another hour.
You're not in charge here. We're done with this. All right. You can. Was there? You have. I don't know.
I brought it up. It was my subject.
Okay. So what's the end of the point?
There's no solution to this, and I think we just need to look at all the aspects of everything and it's not something that anybody's doing right now. We're not looking at everything. We're looking at one thing. We're looking at...
You're like the goddamn media. You're confusing us even more. There is something we can do. Turn off the fucking TV.
It's not going to solve everything. It's just going to lead to the zombie apocalypse. That's all it's going to do.
There have been times when I've been wondering if I'm just too high right now, and I think the answer is no. I'm not.
But anyways, so to bring it back to the original point... it's been 10 years since we've seen...
Since we started this episode.
And I think that comic movies are nice.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, cool.
Who here would continue to watch comic movies? Let's go around the room. Chris? Yes. Jared?
Yeah.
Greg?
Well, yes, I would love to watch X-Men 1 again.
Dan?
I'm throwing my TV out.
Jared?
I have no idea.
So that's Grownup Human Comic, people. You can I don't know the script. I don't have it memorized. You do that.
I don't have it memorized either. Actually, you know what? I probably do. You can find us at grownuphumans.net. Sorry, hold on. Let me just compose myself real fast. You can find us at grownuphumans.com, epicastnetwork.com/grownuphumans. Make sure to rate and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Music, Libsyn, all that kind of stuff. It helps our visibility. Check us out on social media. Just look up Grown Up Human Comic People. That's fine. You'll find us. Let's go around the room and say goodbye to everybody. Kriyath.
Goodbye.
J-Man.
See ya.
Oh, Greg.
Until next time.
Danny.
Until next time, be compassionate. Don't worry about respect. Compassion's the key.
I'm Jared. You should definitely go see Black Panther because that shit is dope.
Yeah! I promise we will be talking about that next time.
We'll talk about it. Yeah, we'll talk about it next time. Don't worry. So thanks for listening, and that's enough of that.
Human
Adios.
Comic People! Grown-up Human Comic People!
Epicast.